Let me tell you about Grace. Grace is a marketing manager from Taiwan. She's super smart, really good at her job, but she kept getting confused in meetings. Her boss would say, "Let's touch base next week and run it by the finance before we move forward." Grace just smiled and then Googled everything afterwards. So she and I worked together on just 10 phrasal verbs, key verbs that she could use to help her understand. And a few weeks later, her boss told her, "Hey, it's really great how you started picking things up so fast." So it wasn't magic, just language. And today, I'm going to show you 10 phrasal verbs that can help you sound more natural and more confident, whether you're in a meeting, writing an email, or just trying to keep up. Let's break them down. What I'll do is give you the meaning, when to use it, a sentence, and a short story for each one. Let's go. Starting with follow up. What does that mean? To follow up means to check back on something or someone, to go and check again after you've already assigned something. When do we use it? We use it after a meeting or in an email or if you're making a promise to deliver something. So, for example, you might say, "I'm just following up on the report we discussed last week. Any updates?" That would be a good way to put it in an email. You know, I had a client named Jack. He used to email, "Did you finish it?" which kind of feels harsh. So we changed it to "just following up on the draft. Any progress?" So that makes the tone sound more polite, and suddenly people started replying on time. It's amazing how far a little respect goes, right? Next up, we've got back out of. Whoa, what does it mean? It means to cancel or withdraw from a commitment. When are we going to use it? We use it when someone decides not to do something that they've previously agreed to do. So you might see it in an email like they backed out of the agreement at the last minute. Not a good thing, right? So I once worked with a Korean startup, and I heard about how they lost a deal because they misunderstood this simple phrasal verb. The email said to them, "We'll have to back out." Well, they thought it meant to wait. Big difference. Cancel, wait, not the same thing. Number 3, take over. Take over means to assume control of something. When do we use it? You can use it when a person steps in to lead a project or a company acquires another company. Here's an example sentence. "Susan will take over the presentation tomorrow." One of my students actually got promoted once because she said, "Oh, I can take over that process for you." And because she sounded confident, she proved that she could lead and ended up getting a promotion. Good deal, right? Next up, bring up. To bring something up means to start talking about a topic. When you use it, you want to use it to raise an issue or to share an idea. It's funny that you bring that up right now. Or, "I wanted to bring up the timeline concerns." Oh, that's kind of serious. I wanted to bring up these concerns. Like I said, it's good for when you want to raise an issue. So I had a student who once said, "I want to say the schedule thing." I said, "That sounds a little awkward. Why don't we change it to, can I bring up something about the schedule?" Suddenly everyone's listening because they understand the point of the message. Number 5, to run something by someone. You want to fill in the blanks there. Means to ask for someone's opinion or approval or permission if you need to. Before making a decision or to double check with a manager or a client or ask for permission. So you might say, "Let me run this by the team before we finalize it." And what happens here is this builds trust. A client of mine in Singapore used this in an email and got praised for being thoughtful and professional, building that trust with the client. Next up, to call off means to cancel something officially. To cancel something. When do we use it? You can use it anytime there is something scheduled. It could be a meeting, an event, or a project that's being canceled or stopped. So you might say, they called off the event due to the storm. I had a client once who we were planning a workshop together. The weather got bad, and so she used that in her email. We've decided to call off tomorrow's session. Pretty clear, professional, and nothing out of hand. The next one is all about reducing the amount of something, to cut back on something. You're reducing usually costs or time when you use cut back on. We want to use it when a business wants to save resources. You can see some examples. We're going to cut back on travel expenses. We're cutting back on the budget so we can lower our quarterly spendings. We're cutting back on our resources. Very simple. And it's not just for business either. Maybe you've put on a few pounds after the holidays, or maybe you've just been really busy lately. Oh, I want to lose some weight, so I need to cut back on the dessert. That's right. So, yeah, I had a client who used to say, we need to stop spend money. And so we changed that together to, we're trying to cut back on spending. That sounds much more natural. Okay, to look into. To look into means to investigate or research. When do we use it? Use it when something needs to be checked or fixed or explored. When there's some issue that you just need to know more about, you look into it. And that's actually what one of my IT clients started to use. Once he learned this, he stopped saying, I will check the problem later, and we changed it to be, I'll look into it this afternoon. And that sounds more respectful, and so the clients really appreciate that. You're giving them a timeline, and you say, I'll look into it. Next is to carry on or carry on with. Means to continue doing something. Carry on, that's something we say in the military. When an officer walks into a room, everyone stands up, and the officer has to say, carry on. That means continue doing what you were doing. So we use this after a pause or when you're giving instructions. I often use this with AI as well. When AI asks me a question, do you want me to do this? I say, carry on. You might say something like, okay, we've been sidetracked, so let's carry on with the meeting. I had a student who would freeze up when someone said, go ahead and carry on, because he thought they were asking him to leave. But when I explained it to him and he started to practice, then he got confident. He understood, okay, he doesn't want me to leave. He wants me to keep going, keeping things moving with the meeting. Now, last one, number 10, to point out. Well, why are we pointing out? To point out doesn't mean to point outside of something. It means to highlight something. Make it more noticeable. Make something important stand out. And we use it very simply when you are giving a presentation or when you're giving feedback. For example, you might say, she pointed out a mistake in my report. And one of my students used this to give polite but direct feedback to his boss. He said, boss, may I point out one small issue? And afterwards, the boss was very thankful. See how polite he was? May I point out one small issue? He asked it like a question. Phrasal verbs like these may sound casual, but they're actually useful in business English. So if you learn them, you'll stop sounding like a beginner and start sounding like you belong. Now we get to your challenge. I want you to pick one of today's phrasal verbs and use it this week in a meeting or in an email. It just have to use one. Maybe you might use follow up or run by. I don't think we covered run by. I want you to run this by me. Run something by you means you're offering an idea. You're saying, I want to run this idea by you. You might say, I want to bring up something or look into. So be sure to share any questions you might have from today's lesson. If you thought of anything, take this chance to drop your question down in the comments. And if you found this helpful today, click the like button, subscribe, and share it with a friend or a colleague who's desiring to improve their English. And you can also get the full list of this article and practice exercises in the blog posts at allaboutenglishmastery.com, also in the description down below. Don't forget to sign up for the newsletter.